property in Dow, Illinois. And we've been there ever since. We've got approximately 8 acres. Treehouse is a wildlife rehab center. So we do rehab for native Illinois wildlife that are injured, ill, or orphaned. So we will be coming up on our mating season soon. We will probably start getting orphaned squirrels by the end of the month. As much as possible, we will return them to the wild. We'll raise them up, we'll get them well, and we return them to the wild if we can. We have approximately 60 permanent resident animals that are not able to be released, that stay with us as education animals, and they either go out on programs like Billy does, or they may be what we call a static display, and people can walk around and look at them. We are a nonprofit, a 501c3. We have a part-time office manager, 2 full-time rehabbers and 1 part-time rehabber, and everyone else is a volunteer. So the bulk of the work on a daily basis gets done by volunteers. We take in anything that is a native Illinois animal, with the exception of adult deer and skunks, because the state of Illinois does not allow it. We do not take in songbirds because we take in raptors. And so we simply don't have the space or the resources to do both. And songbirds don't want to be around birds that will eat them. We also cannot take bats per the state of Illinois. And we choose not to take raccoons simply because they are incredibly time intensive. Everything else we take, whether it's a snake, we have a gray tree frog in care right now. We have, as far as our permanent residents, they range in size from a gray tree frog to snakes to turtles to multiple kinds of raptors. We have pelicans, we have an osprey, and coyotes, foxes, and bobcats. We cover the entire state of Illinois from just south of the Chicago area all the way down to Carbondale. We go east and west. We cannot take animals from across the state line simply because of legal requirements. We also do, in addition to keeping animals for our own education, Treehouse has been involved in placing animals at other education facilities. In fact, at the end of this month, I'll be traveling to Kansas with another little kestrel, and that kestrel will be meeting up with people from the Raptor Education Center from Brighton, Colorado, and he will be traveling to them to live with them. We have placed animals in North Carolina, Colorado, Wisconsin. So we have a pretty big network of placement for other facilities to also use animals as education animals. We do a lot of education programming. So we might, just this week I did a program where a bunch of homeschooled children came out and did a tour of the facility, and I took out animals and showed them to them and talked to them about that. I've gone to care centers, multiple schools, Boys and Girl Scouts facilities. So we do as much education as possible, both on-site and off-site. We try to be in the community as much as we can, as far as making people aware of our existence, making sure that they know that if they come across an animal, that we can attempt to help it, and to let them know that we are available for volunteer opportunities as well. When people ask about what could I do to help, if you really want to, you can come out and work with us in the clinic where you're cleaning and feeding the animals and interacting more directly with them. You can be in fundraising, you can be in maintenance. All of that stuff is done by volunteers. All of our enclosures have been built by volunteers, all of the maintenance of those enclosures are done by volunteers. Pretty much everything is done via volunteer work. We don't get any federal or state funding. Everything is either via a grant or through donations, sometimes corporate donations, more likely personal donations. You guys have questions specifically about treehouse?
Explain what happened to my little otter. Like what happened,
Okay.
I just love the little river.
So we have a lot of animals that we get pretty routinely. Probably always gonna find a squirrel or an opossum or something like that. Some animals we don't get as frequently, and one of those is otters. But a couple of years ago, we got an otter that had been, his den and his siblings and mother had actually been, the den had been destroyed and his family had been killed in a mudslide. He was the only survivor. He was found in a woman's backyard. He was young, too young to be on his own. She got him to us. We had to bottle feed that otter. He grew up, he got very strong. One of the problems with bottle feeding a baby that young though is that they get kind of not domesticated but habituated to human contact. So he became very, very friendly. And we realized we were probably not going to be able to get him released in the wild. So we had to, we kept him up until he was old enough to be placed somewhere else. And some people really wanted to keep him because he's quite entertaining and very friendly. We just didn't have the setup as far as an aquarium or the kinds of space and water needs that he would need. So he ended up being placed at the North Carolina Zoo, where they have a big aquarium and other otters, because otters are pretty social, and he lives down there now. We've had a coyote and a bobcat placed at a placement out in Massachusetts, just outside of Cape Cod. We've had pelicans placed at the Missouri, or at the St. Louis Zoo. We've also had pelicans placed at the San Diego Zoo. So we are pretty far ranging when it comes to finding facilities, appropriate facilities for our animals that we're not able to release, but we're also very, very good at rehab and releasing. We keep statistics every year. We have to turn them into state and federal licensees so that they can maintain, so that we can maintain our licensure. And so as an example, one of the hardest species to rehab are cottontail rabbits. They're a prey species, they're very high stress. You can look at them wrong, scare them, and they die. We get in a lot of baby rabbits, and we have approximately a 65% success rate in raising them successfully to release. You say that doesn't sound great, but for that species, it's very, very good. So we have really good numbers. We have really committed, good staff. We have a good team. We work really hard. Our rehabbers put in 10-hour days, 4 days a week. So they are always available. We are also one of the only rehab centers that has a network of volunteers that will transport. So we will go, we've gone as far away as Quincy. In fact, probably about, I'd say it's about 4 years ago now, they had a storm up in that area and it destroyed an eagle nest along the Mississippi. The eaglets were on the ground, the parents were nowhere to be found. We drove to Quincy, picked up the eaglets, came back with them, raised them, and when they were ready for release, we drove back to Quincy and released them in that area. We do as much as we can to make sure that any animal that's in our care goes back to the place that it came from. That particular release, they have a Native American council up there, and so the public met us, it was a public release. The person who found the birds was able to be present, and then they also had a Native American ceremony to send the eagles off and give them good vibes and good wishes. So they are one of the more slow maturing mammal babies. They will stay with their mom for a year, sometimes longer. Our squirrel babies, our rabbits, possums, we can get them in and out in a matter of a couple of months. Not so with the raccoons. They also require quite a bit of space. We are on 8 acres, and we're using very close to every inch of that space with our current resources. So we don't really have a placement for them. Raccoons also they carry a lot of disease that is transmittable to humans and to other species. So every time you have a litter of raccoons, if you move them from this enclosure to a bigger enclosure, you have to disinfect this enclosure. And the way you disinfect it is fire washing. So we just don't have the space or the staff or the resources to really do justice to raccoons. So we choose not to do them.
So how big is the actual structure building that you work out of, and how many cages do you have?
So we have an education center. So the story of where we are at the moment is we bought a property in Dow, approximately 8 acres. The house had been built by a Principia professor, and it was built as a multi-family home. So they had the main area for the main couple. They had an area that was an efficiency apartment for one mother-in-law.